lab. Responses engine 5, engine 3, engine 1, ladder 3, ladder 2, rescue 1. We've got smoke showing. Division 1, you're on location, box 23, reporting smoke show on 727.
Welcome to JobTlks podcast. Our goal is to facilitate knowledge sharing. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests on the show belong solely to the people expressing them. We do not represent the departments, cities, or towns we work for.
It's almost like an interesting dichotomy, and one of the things I wanted to mention is that in reviewing your notes is that as much as like the Pee-wee's loss was kind of like represented like the depths of your despair and struggles. But I also noted that like Pee-wee served as the foundation to change your life. Do you feel that that's accurate?
I'd say yeah, definitely. Yeah. I know I grieved the dogs, and especially her, for like a year and a half. And in rehab, I woke up one morning, I just felt different. A couple days passed, I'm like, I actually feel good.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, okay.
Right. I'm like, it's not because I'm not. I thought it was originally because I wasn't drinking, but then I realized that I stopped grieving the dogs. Like up until that point, I could think about them and start crying, like at a drop of a dime. And then I was just like, I kind of closed that door and just moved on. And that I know everybody grieves differently. There's a different process for everybody, and there's stages and stuff like that. But I never knew that a dog would impact me, that like the bond, like you have a dog and you have a bond with a companion dog, but when you add the working level to it and all the people you meet with that, it adds to it. So definitely.
Kaya comes with me almost. I mean, it's not like a working dog level, but she comes with me to the paramedic program. Mm-hmm. She comes with me everywhere. Like, so like she's such a hallmark, like, and that's only half, I mean, like,
right.
I can't even imagine like the bond of like working through the training and like going all these places together. That's your adventure buddy.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you're at peace with Pee-wee now, like the loss of Pee-wee?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
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 I do.
Yeah.
Interesting fact, I think, is always relevant, but Flaherty was the dog handler in the Marines, and so his dog was a bomb-sniffing dog, and something you'd probably appreciate.
One of his close friends, he was on the Brockton Fire Department, passed away recently.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, he passed away in a bike accident, real tragic. But Matt, had a big impact on a lot of people, but loved dogs. Always had dogs. Was always really good with dogs. So his dog in Iraq or Afghanistan, I don't remember which one it was, but Chica, it was a yellow lab. She was a bomb sniffing dog. When he got out of the military, I think she got out a year after him. And then through all sorts of back channels and hard work and stuff like that, he was able to actually like get her back home, and he adopted her. And like, just as because of the story, I feel like all you guys would appreciate. Chica lived to like a good old age, and but when she passed, because she was in the military, she got full honors.
That's awesome.
Which was great because there were so many canine handlers there, like all the state police dogs. And so when Matt actually like walked her ashes to the like full services, dude, like the limo, everything,
I believe
walked her ashes down. All the handlers had control of their dogs, and they had them all barking like right on cue and like stopping right on cue. I mean, like that's amazing ceremony. Wow. Like it was, man. Like I think about it, I'm talking about it now, and I'm like trying to like not to joke up because it's like so incredible, you know what I mean? But definitely a story I thought you guys might
definitely
you guys might appreciate.
Yeah. All right. And I don't know if it's true in the Marine Corps, but in the Army, the handler, the dog is actually one rank higher.
Oh, that's true. Handler. And I only know that because of Flaherty. Yeah. So you can't you can't abuse your dog, because if you do, you like face incredible amounts of charges or something like that. That's the idea behind it. Yeah.
Just pretty awesome.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. So, and I think like I titled each slide and I called it like recovery and the long road home or the road home. And like as we get into that conversation about, you becoming a formal leader, you had leadership before, and like now that I've quantified it as I very much view you as like mastering the self, and diving into like leadership and leadership philosophy. But there was a quote I had wanted to read that kind of like, I felt kind of like turned the page, if it's okay for me to.
Sure.
You said, "I know that because of alcohol and the choices I made while drinking, I hurt people emotionally, destroyed a marriage, wrecked a good reputation, lost respect, and was reckless. I remain in the process of building back what I lost. Unfortunately, it will never be the same. I have come to terms with this, and I have accepted it." I thought that was so powerful. And we talked about this off the air, but like the amount of, I think, like personal bravery to come on the show and to talk about these things and to kind of make peace with all these things, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think a lot
Thank
of the
you.
viewers will be immensely benefit, and the community writ large, to talk about the topics that people just don't like to talk about, but they
Right.
should talk about. But as you when you came back from the Deerfield house, was the transition a smooth one?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was a lot better than what I was anticipating.
Yeah.
Everybody, the administration of the department, the chief, and everybody was supportive. Friends were supportive, and family. I didn't know how my family was going to act, and they were all supportive. So, I don't think, at least I don't know of anybody that, turned their back on me or anything like that because of it. Everybody seemed to be pleased that I got help.
Yeah.
And the whole respect thing, losing respect, that was because of my actions while I was drinking. And
Yeah.
it's unfortunate because I did have a pretty good reputation, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the drinking and what I did while I was doing it, and that certainly destroyed it. It's like losing trust. You'll never get trust back fully like you had it before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the same with the reputation. Like, it'll be nowhere near what it was.
Yeah.
I've accepted that, and I'm okay with it, because like it's either you got to be okay with it, or it's gonna weigh on you.
Yeah.
And
Right.
there's too many other things that weigh on you
Yeah.
than that.
Yeah.
So I just I try to do what I can now, and is what it is, unfortunately.
I feel like, maybe you can't build back exactly what you had, but like, meeting us and like coming on the show, you can build ahead, and there are people that didn't know you before, or, see all those things and aren't clouded, judgment of you isn't clouded by those things, and can have respect and trust and all that stuff too. So did you feel like you were ready to come home from the program when it was time to come home?
I was. It was probably about 3 or 4 days before they said I was heading home. I was like, all right, I need to get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And then they told me, like, hey, you're going home in like 4 days. I'm like, oh, sweet.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was the insurance picked up everything.
Nice.
It was
That's
amazing.
awesome.
Like,
That's
I got
great.
the bill to see what it cost, and it was close to $70,000.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I just had to pay a $400 deductible.
Wow.
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 I mean,
That's unbelievable. Yeah.
that's priceless there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a godsend.
Yeah.
And I think one of the when you say like things will never be the same, I also think there's benefit to that, because I very much equate it to like, if your house burns down in a fire, right, and you have to rebuild, there's probably things you're going to want to recreate what you lost, but there's probably things that you would do different. You'd build something a little bit different, make improvements.
Right.
And I think that, like, I don't want to say to like despite your troubles, because I think that like your troubles and like your struggle and now like sharing that story with the community is going to have such a large impact, and now informs your view on like leadership. Like I would almost like rather have a leader leading me that like has had like such a broad depth of emotional experience, of life experience, because I know that like when I inevitably go through troubles, I can have someone that I can talk to that can recognize these things in me and guide me.
Right.
Yeah.
So I honestly think that like having gone through these experiences makes you a better leader.
Yes.
Gives you greater understanding and leadership capacity.
It's almost like we've talked about you want to fail or have experience failing so that you can have experience succeeding out of failures, and not that the alcoholism is a failure, but it's something that is a trial and tribulation in your life,
Right.
and having the experience to overcome that gives you a profound depth of knowledge emotionally and otherwise that somebody who never had to do that just won't have. And it's not a bad thing that they don't, but it's also a good it's a good knowledge to have for people. And
Definitely.
especially if you come across somebody else who's struggling, again, going back to that shared experience thing. So,
And I'm sure you guys have heard this term on the Cape, but, smooth seas don't make a skilled sailor.
That is true.
yeah.
So John, like now, and I'm sure I don't want to jump ahead. I just was thinking, but where are you at now, like in your day to day? And so now it sounds like you're somewhere around, was it 2017? You said so, like
So
going on
5
4 or
years.
5 years, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats. Yeah.
And
You just hit 5 years, right?
Yeah, I did.
yeah, so congratulations. And I'm sure it's like an evolving practice, right? Like things that you're doing every day, but like what is it like? Like what is your like day to day now, as far as like what are you doing to, like, what are your like outlets, and what's your routine? Like, what do you like, where are you like finding
Peace and outlet.
peace and
Yeah.
and like how are you staying on the path, and like what, you know what I mean? Like if you can kind of get into that. And,
Yeah. So I get up usually between 4 and 5 every morning.
Yeah.
The other day at work, I was up at 03. I just can't sleep at work.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
I consider like 2 hours a good night for me at work.
Right.
That's what I got last night.
And so every morning when I'm not on duty, I'm up around between 4 and 5, and I'll make a list of what to do during the day. And I always write down, read, and then a couple other things that I routinely put on there. Then at the bottom with asterisks in a different color pen because I have OCD. So
A lot of us do.
So I write make good choices, and I recently picked that up from somebody, and it's it kind of like sets the tone,
Yeah.
And so in the morning I'll go to it's a boxing class. It's more of a workout than actual sparring,
Yeah.
and I do that 3 times a week, sometimes 4, and I try to do some exercising on duty, but it's call dependent, and
Yep.
and I feel that takes away from my job if somebody needs something.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, oh, where is he? He's in the gym again. So I try to
Be accessible. Yeah.
make myself accessible to everybody. But for AA and stuff like that, I did it at first. I don't do it anymore. I had a hard time with it because the meetings I went to, they did a lot of romanticizing. People would get up and share their story, and I'm glad they did, and they were able to. But they were like, my favorite drink was this. It made me feel like that. It tastes like this. Smells like that.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, oh, geez.
Yeah. Right.
So those few experiences didn't work out for me.
Right.
But not saying that's going to work out for somebody else. I mean, it's a saving grace to a lot of people. And
Yeah.
Right.
I recently started working the steps, and I see a therapist probably once a week.
Yeah.
Through like a Zoom platform.
Yeah.
And the first meeting I ever had with him, I'm just thinking to myself, wow, he's taking a lot of notes. And I said to him at the end, you took a lot of notes, huh? He goes, yeah. He goes, I usually take 1 or 2 pages, not 6.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, great.
Yeah.
I'm like this poor guy. But
Yeah.
I think of therapy as a good thing. I think of it as like an oil change for your car.
Yeah, definitely.
Like preventative maintenance.
Right.
And like rehab, I consider that like a software update.
Yeah.
And
That's a good way to put it. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that and both of those certainly help in being vulnerable and talking and opening up. You know, if somebody wants to listen, I'll sit down and like this, you know, and share my story. I got no problem with it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think by doing it, it's gonna hopefully help somebody. And
Definitely will help people.
Yeah, definitely.
you know, because everybody's going through something. It's different than, might be different than you or I,
Right.
but everybody's going through something that.
Right.
So like the thing I try to do is I try to pay attention to keywords that people say at work. You know, like oh my, you know, if somebody comes in and says, "Oh, I'm hungover again," it's like, you know, I shouldn't say might, you know, I'd go up to them and say, "Hey, how's things going?" You know, not prying, but just showing that, you know, there's somebody out there that cares and can
Right.
help you. I mean,
Yeah. Cares enough to ask.
right,
Right.
yeah. And letting them talk. Like, there's a lot of one of the things I learned as an officer is, let me just put this out there. I'm not a perfect officer.
No one is.
Yeah, I don't think I'm
Yeah.
a great officer. I think I do a good job, and I think greatness, you can't give yourself that label. That's other people telling you that you
Right.
you do things great. But so I make mistakes every single day I go to work, and I do my best to own them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had an after action on one fire, and the captain was out, so I was in the car, and I got to run the fire. It was a one-line fire. It wasn't anything much. And the training captain came up to me and goes, "Hey, next time, make sure you wear your gear." I was out in the front yard with no gear on, just, you know, doing what incident commanders do. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
so we had an after-action report meeting with the shift the next tour, and I started off with, like, let's talk about, you know, what went well, what didn't, what could have went better, and stuff like that. And I started off first. I'm like, well, first off, I made a big mistake, and I could see somebody in the corner, one of the senior members, and I saw him. You know, I just got the impression that, or the feeling that, if I didn't dime myself out, and you know, that
He was going to get you.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
that's when I knew it was definitely right to say something that,
100%.
like,
Yeah.
hey, you know, I should have worn my gear.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, the chief said the same thing, and the training captain said the same thing. So, you know what? Next incident that, you know, I'm in that position, definitely gonna wear it.
I think like as a leader, it's important to set that tone.
Yeah.
Because it's disarming, right? It shifts the conversation from we're looking to find mistakes that people made,
Right.
to like we're looking to collectively improve and learn
Right.
from each other. And I think it was maybe not the dichotomy of leadership, but Jocko talks about
Extreme ownership.
Extreme ownership.
Yeah.
Jocko talks about that AAR that they did. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. I think they made a mistake. I don't know if it was a fatal mistake. I haven't read the book.
Friendly fire one.
Friendly fire.
Yeah.
And he goes around and he says, whose mistake was it? And the senior leadership from Naval Special Warfare were in the back. And, you know, he's going around and he's like, whose mistake was it? And, you know, a bunch of operators are like, it was my mistake. And he's like, no, it wasn't your mistake. And then the other guy's like, well, it's my mistake because I wasn't pulling rear security. And he's like, no, it wasn't your mistake. And he's like, the mistake was mine. And he, as the senior leader, owns that and sets the tone. And he had said that otherwise that mistake probably would have cost him professionally. But by owning it, not only did it not cost him professionally, it probably garnered admiration from his men that, like, the responsibility is mine as the senior commander on the ground. It's not your responsibility, you know?
Right.
Which kind of brings me into, like, now we've talked on the show a lot about leadership, and, like, now, like, being on the path of being a student of leadership. And there was a lot in the notes, but I wanted to put these up here because we'll dive into a lot of it. But the principles that you have really adopted in your leadership philosophy, and a couple of the ones that stood out to me, I'll let the guys pick the ones that they want to talk about. But the ones that I really stood out to me was listening to understand and not to respond.
Right.
So I was wondering if you would talk a little bit about what that means to you, because that really stood out to me.
So if you just watch people like casually, and I mean, who doesn't like to people watch, right?
Yeah.
You know, and two people be having a conversation, and one of them is looking at the phone and talking, and or continuously interrupting somebody or answering the question or their statement. But if you sit there and what I try to do is, I'll put the phone on silent, flip it upside down, or even put it down and not pay attention to it, and just listen to somebody when they talk. And with that, you have a natural response at the end of it, when it's time to say something. But a lot of times, listening to people, what they're trying to tell you, it gets off their back, their chest, and they feel better, and rightfully so, because somebody actually took the time to pay attention and comprehend what somebody was trying to say.
Yeah.
So listening to understand is, I don't know where I saw it.
It was a great one. As soon as I saw it,
right.
it really stood out.
And I had it in the notes like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
But yeah, just listen to people. Don't try to think of a response.
Yeah.
I screw it up too, and I'll be like, oh, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, don't say anything. Wait to the end.
Right.
And because a lot of times, they'll person talking will automatically say it in the next couple of sentences. It's funny how that works out, but just honestly, caringly listen to somebody.
Yeah.
It means I think that goes a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. There's so much with the leadership, because it's a personal passion of mine, and mutual passion, and I think passion of these guys as well. One thing that the Carl von Clausewitz, knowledge must become capability.
Yeah,
That's something like I work with, because like, especially with things like almost like things like rope, and like changing the way that like because I don't know if that knowledge yet has become like capability for me, because I felt like there's so much information in classes like that. So like I try to take as many classes as possible, and maybe it's my learning style, but like ensuring that knowledge becomes capability. But like with something like rope, for example, I'm not sure that knowledge has become capability yet, and maybe that's just through repetition.
Right.
But ensuring that it does. But I thought that was a really cool point, that knowledge must become capability, and ensuring that like I'm not just taking a class to take a class, that I'm being attentive and like absorbing the material, understanding the material, so that knowledge that I'm bringing back can become capability. Because I look at things like, like I really enjoy rope, and like he'll be like, oh, like, well, I'm a rope rescue technician 3, but does that like transition to like capability?
Right.
Probably not yet, because I haven't done any rope you know what I mean? Like,
Especially if you did it and then and then that was it.
we're gonna get some money for those feet.
Yeah, I did this on purpose.
Yeah.
See
Which
that? I just had Crocs
yeah.
today.
But how do like how how do you ensure that like knowledge attained is knowledge that stays and
Right.
becomes capability?
So Carl von Clausewitz, he was military leader in the early 1800s.
Yeah.
He wrote, his wife put together all of his notes and everything like that, and the book's called On War.
Yeah.
And I was reading, it's like 711 pages. I'm like halfway through it, and it's I'm reading it because it's more of a strategic view. How we should actually look at things more strategically than tactically.
Yeah.
Right.
And knowledge must become capability is that was written between 1816 and 1830.
It's timeless.
It's still
We've said that plenty of times. Like the principles of leadership are fairly timeless. Like things change, people change, but the principles of like what makes a good leader 200 years ago still makes a good leader today.
Yeah.
Maybe there are more things to add to it, but like the very basic principles, I feel like still apply.
Yeah.
I like 2 things on this list that I like are, one is caring, and I think Chief Eichels had said it before. Like you as a leader have to legitimately care about every single person you work with or under you, because if you don't, even people that you don't get along with or whatever, because if you don't, you can't effectively like lead them when stuff gets tough or whatever. And then the other one is I like that a leader needs to be a student and an educator. I actually misread that, and I thought it said a leader needs to be a student, not an educator. And the way my mind interpreted that was that even when you're like training somebody and doing something else, it's also for you to continue to learn and refresh. It's not just to tell people how to do things.
Right.
It's always you should still be a student, even when you're the one leading the instruction, you know?
Yeah. I always tell people that, like, you know, teaching the paramedic program, that I learn more from the students than I think the students learn from me. Granted, that might be because I'm an idiot, but, you know, but like
I wasn't.
You
gonna
said
say
it, not us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I just feel like I really enjoy teaching, and, you know, we've taught a forcible entry class together, and like I learn just as much from doing those things, and like teaching is something that's I think it's a gift to the instructor
Right.
Yeah.
more than it is to the student.
Yeah, I agree. And teaching brings you to the next level because
Helps you master the information, right?
it does.
Yeah.
Like I taught, I didn't do many of them, but I taught cardiology for our refresher.
Yeah.
So there's like 30, 40 of my peers in the room, and I spent probably like 2 or 3 months prepping for it, and I built made out the PowerPoint, and you know, I wanted to have a couple levels of knowledge above the PowerPoint, just in case if somebody had a question that wasn't, I'd be able to answer it. And luckily, it paid off. And there was another couple questions that I was like, I don't know,
Yeah.
Right.
you know, but
Which is an important leadership
definitely.
quality too,
Yeah.
is to
Just
be able to
say,
say, I don't know.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but I'll try and find the answer for you.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. But with teaching, it keeps you fresh, and the more you do it, you find different ways to explain it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if somebody's not picking up what you're putting down, it's most likely how you're explaiing it
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
or showing them.
Right.
And sometimes there's there was one thing, it took me 5 plus years to figure out what it was or what it means. That's, you know, axis deviation on a 12 lead.
Yeah.
All
Like, I
right.
went to many classes and everybody explained it a different way, but then I took the class at University of Maryland, Baltimore City in Burke County, and Bob Page explained it so simply that I was like, oh, that's it?
Yeah.
And it clicked.
Yeah.
Right.
But so the point is that, like, if you're not explaining it right, either readjust how you explain it or teach it, or grab somebody else that could. You
Right.
know? And
I think that's the hallmark of a truly talented educator,
Yeah.
is that they can shift their instructional style based on the students.
Right.
Right. Because not every student learns the same. Not every
No.
student has. I'm a very hands-on learner. You said you're visual.
Right.
You know, some people can pick up a book, read it, and memorize it. You know, everybody has a little different thing.
Yeah.
What
Will
I-
has to physically grab the heart. And
Yeah.
like, feel this electrical impulse. It's
Yeah.
propagating from here.
Yeah.
This
Oh, yeah, I can
is
feel it.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Kalima. But I found that in doing this podcast is like, especially when we do episodes where we do a little bit more tactical, like firefighting stuff, nobody wants to look like an idiot, you know, and
Right.
come up here and present false information.
Yeah.
So like, even though it's something I feel like I know a reasonable amount, the like research into being
Yes.
able to present it
Yeah.
correctly and whatever, I learn more. So, you know,
Yeah.
like you said, it always just brings you to the next step. And there's never a day in your career that you should stop being a student, you know?
That, and there's, as the saying goes, more than one way to skin a cat. Just because
Yeah.
you do something one way doesn't make what somebody else is doing wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially if you get the right result or the goal is met.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's where micromanaging and stepping back and allowing somebody to work. You know, give them the objectives and show them how or teach them, and
Right.
then let them have at it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
What do you call that, John?
I don't know.
Decentralized.
Yeah. Just giving the commander's intent
Yep.
on allowing your subordinates to make it happen. And if there's a problem that they need to overcome, they understand, they communicate that to you, and they present, I'm not presenting you the problem, I'm presenting you with an obstacle, and now tabling, like you as a commander can either ask them, what their solution is, or
Right.
potentially provide them a little bit more, like, hey, like, have you
Guidance.
thought about guidance? Have you thought about doing this way? And having trust and confidence in your personnel to get it done.
Yeah, as of I do my. It's very hard being going from firefighter to lieutenant and being hands off.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
I spent almost like 18 years being a firefighter. And
Especially if you love what you do.
yeah,
Right.
you
Yeah.
got passion for it. You
Yeah.
just want to be in there doing it. But
Yeah.
as an officer, you have to step back
Yeah.
Right.
and look at the whole picture and kind of be like Overwatch of the
Yeah.
incident or whatever is going on.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's the commander's intent.
Yeah.
And in my notes there's I had the luck to actually speak with James Mattis on the phone.
Yeah. I remember.
Oh,
you said
really?
that. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That was cool.
Yeah.
That was like my 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did that come
Sweet.
about?
So I read his. So obviously I like to read, and there's
Yeah.
some books that like stand out, and
Yeah.
I read his in Call Sign Chaos, which
Yeah.
I saw that you have on your
Fantastic
bookshelf.
book.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I took notes of it, and I have leadership notes that I've taken over the past like 4 or 5 years, and I call them the guiding principles. And it's just information I've taken from people that I well respect and do a good job, and I just take notes of what they've said or done, and then put my my 2 cents into it. And so I was sitting at home. I'm like, how can I email these notes to James Mattis?
Yeah.
And so I Googled his name, looking for his personal email, and came up with nothing, but I came up with this company that kind of helps him or arranges his speaking.
Yeah.
And so I called them, got a voicemail, so I left a message, and my phone rings, and it was the company.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, here's our email address. We'll just forward it to us, and the subtitle or the subject just put James Mattis. So I did that. A few weeks went by, and I'm like, I was like maybe hoping for like an email back and something.
Right.
Yeah.
Never expecting, standing in line at CVS, my phone would ring, and it came up Mattis James.
No shit.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I was shell shocked, and
I'll call him back later.
Yeah.
yeah,
Silence.
I gotta pay for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was something I definitely answered and stepped out of line for.
Hell yeah.
And it was like an 8-minute conversation.
Yeah.
And he's got utmost respect for what we do.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah. What were his thoughts? Did he have time to review your notes? And
Yeah. So he said you took all the broth out of the soup and just left the meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
And I mean, like the notes are, he said, are very well written and right on. That was his. And he's like, you're pretty detail oriented, right? I said,
Yeah.
yes, I am, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I actually screenshotted it.
Yeah.
And I got it framed, and it's up on my wall at home, and there's a picture in my locker of him, because nobody was going to believe me if I
Yeah.
didn't have evidence that
Yeah,
a
right.
Right.
4-star general called me.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's
man.
pretty.
awesome.
That's pretty awesome on you for just reaching out and taking notes. That he was like, "Well, I need to talk to this guy."
Yeah.
But also, like, that's pretty cool that he was like, "I need to talk to this guy."
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
Like, that's a true leader, like somebody that like
Well, call
calls
you.
like that
yeah,
doesn't know any
Takes the
person at all.
time to
Yeah.
read the notes, provide feedback.
Yeah.
right.
I think one of the things that we've kind of come to realize over the last few months, like doing all this stuff, is like we have so many like giants in and around our industry, and
Right.
people who are doing big things, and then you get to meet people and have conversations with people, and then you realize that a guy like James Mattis, he's not a regular guy in the sense of his like ability to but he's just a regular guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like most of these people, they just they're just regular people who have some sort of passion that they pursued,
Right.
and that's kind of like the goal of the show, is to get people on here who have become true masters of their crafts and can speak well about it and spread knowledge around, but it's just regular guys like us sitting around talking. And That's where they started.
And we'd love to, if you'd like, we'd love to share those leadership. We'll put them on the website.
Oh, yeah,
and
definitely.
dedicate
Those
free.
notes, yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and give Mattis a call again. and
Yeah, see
tell
if,
him-
yeah.
see if he has time to,
Yeah.
to get over there and hang out with us.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of JobTlks? Of course
Yeah.
I have.
Of course I have. Yeah.
We are multinational.
We are. Yeah.
He's got
He might not want to hear that. Don't tell him we're
Yeah.
multinational.
Yeah.
It's true.
He's got a library of like 11,000 plus books.
Yeah, and
He's the one that said if you don't read
Thousands
at
of-
least
you're functionally-
3,000 books,
Yeah.
you're functionally
functionally illiterate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm functionally illiterate.
Yeah, I will be my whole life.
Yeah.
But
Could be a different format. It could be audiobooks.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be reading.
What about like Instagram posts?
Yeah, there's good stuff
you
on
got to
there.
consider the source.
Yeah.
But I bring up his collection of books because I was reading one book, and it's Firefighter Success by Jim Moss.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty good book. So I said, why don't I send it to him? Because I have the mailing address,
Yeah.
or I found his mailing address, which was the speaking company that.
Yeah.
So I just put it there and had him forward it to him. Like a month later, I get a note back from him saying, "Hey, thanks. That's a really good book."
Yeah.
Nice.
And,
Jeez Louise.
It's incredible.
So that's the book I'd like to add to your.
Oh, that'd be great.
So you read my mind. So I was
Yeah.
going to say, being the voracious reader that you are, if you could recommend one book to our readers right now, we'd love for you to be a continuous contributor to
Yeah.
the shelf, as we have all these different leaders and people from different walks of life. But do you want to tell us about the book and why you recommended it?
Well, it's got the 20 C's of success, and simplicity is key. And the author just breaks it down so simple, and it's common sense. And you're just like, oh yeah, I do that. Oh, I don't do that, and I should do that. You know, and he puts in quotes from a lot of different people. And there's one quote from Michael Jordan, and you know, I don't remember the quote exactly, but it's basically like he was a sponge and he was coachable. So just be coachable.
Yeah.
That's
That's
one of
John's
John's
thing.
big things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I learned that, like, honestly, like the hard way as a kid, right? Because it was just kind of like, you know, it was like watching people. I'm like, why is this kid getting so much attention, right? Because the coaches love him because he was coachable. Whatever they did, if they said step with your right foot first and end with your right foot, that's what they made sure they did it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even if it was just, I don't know.
Right.
It's a poor example, but it's like true. They just did exactly what they were coached to do. They were coachable people.
Never let their
And-
ego get in the way of,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
improvement.
It's like, man. So I learned that one. Be coachable.
Do you think that your experience helped you become like the leader or be in the position that you are today? I mean, obviously, your experience is not something anyone would hope to have to deal
Right,
with.
yeah.
But do you think that having that experience? I mean, so you came out in 2017. Within 2 years, you're promoted to lieutenant.
Right.
Do you think that helps you as a leader and as a person to have that knowledge?
Definitely. When it's a life experience, other people in a similar position can relate to it. I can relate to, somebody that's going through something. But I know if I didn't stop drinking, I wouldn't have been promoted.
Yeah.
I would think that would be far-fetched if I was still drinking. So that's definitely helped me out there. And then, but yeah, it's definitely a benefit, at least on my part, that I don't. And it just helps overall, it really does.
Yeah.
So we'll add that. We'll add that book. It's
All right.
another good one for the shelf.
Yeah.
And then, in addition to you being a voracious reader, say you're a voracious trainer, right?
Yeah.
So sharing some training resources that you've highlighted as some good ones to share. So we'll kind of talk through them. So the fire department training network.
Yep, out in Indianapolis,
Yeah.
Indiana.
Yeah.
And I went out there for one class. It was like a 5-day class, and it was by far the best realistic fireground training I've ever
Really?
had. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they got it's like a city of Connex boxes, and And they do it quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got some great instructors. And it's realistic.
Yeah.
It really is. And there's nothing that I've experienced that matches it.
That's cool.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah. Another one's FDIC,
Yeah.
Fire Department Instructor Conference. And,
Yeah.
if you can make it to that
Yeah.
as often as you can.
John had mentioned us maybe going to. We should probably make an attempt to go to FDIC. There's a conference coming up that we're going to try to get to. I just need a permission slip, but with a newborn. But hopefully we can make it. But that's something we want to get into. Is like just go to these conferences where these people are offered. The knowledge is there.
Right.
All you have to go is seek it out and meet people. Like those different experiences, different walks of life.
There are people that have the experiences to develop new tools or different ways of doing things, but there's also a lot of people that have the experience of what you're trying to learn to do that can just pass that info on to you, without reinventing the wheel, so they say,
Yeah, it's like the childcare stuff. You're like, Barry, the stuff's already available.
Yeah.
Just look it up.
Just look it up.
Why is the baby crying? But what else I also thought was cool is like the University of Maryland, Baltimore, the critical care paramedic stuff.
Right.
Is a lot of that remote, like remotely accessible knowledge and information lectures, or is that something you have to attend? Or?
I went in 09, and that
Yeah.
was 12 days in a row.
Yeah.
And with one day off in the middle. And as a paramedic, you're always a little. I wasn't really comfortable.
Yeah.
100%. But after that class, with the knowledge I learned there, I felt definitely a lot more comfortable in the back of the ambulance. I'm like, oh, that's what's going on with this patient,
Right.
And it brings you to the next level,
Yeah.
for paramedicine. And
Yeah.
they got a neonatal pediatric program too. But
Yeah.
that was I don't know how they instruct it now, but
Yeah.
it's definitely, if you want to bring your skills up to the next level, that's definitely a good one to go to.
Have you ever thought about doing the critical care paramedic certification or the flight paramedic certification?
I did. I did the flight certification.
Yeah.
Took the exam and got that.
Oh, no shit. Oh.
Yeah, and I let it lapse. For the Con Ed it's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot, yeah.
I couldn't do it. It's almost easier just to study and take the exam again.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I never wanted to be critical care.
Yeah.
I just did it just to get the knowledge.
a little extra.
And I don't like helicopters, so I'm out.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't like helicopters?
They're not supposed to fly. You force them in the air.
Yeah, that is true. That is fair.
Well, it's interesting you say that because it kind of reiterates what you said earlier when you were preparing yourself to teach a cardiology class, right? You went up and above a few levels beyond where you
Right.
needed to be so that you could explain it well enough, or
Yeah.
you took your training beyond,
Right.
not beyond your scope in a sense, but in critical care, it is beyond the scope
is.
of a
Right.
regular paramedic. So you're a few levels above, and it's always imagine like the first day that you were in an ambulance. Funny story, I ran into my first partner I ever had last night. This kid John Dayton, and it's just some stuff like rushed back, and I was like, I just remember like the first call like going on with this guy, and he was like a few months ahead of me, and we were both nervous Nellies.
Yeah.
And it was a basic call, right? It was just like it
Yep.
was a basic 911 call. I couldn't do anything. Just like get this person to the hospital, right?
Yep.
And that, you look at calls like that now, and you're like, there's not even like a spike in the heart rate, not even an uptick of 1
Right.
beat per minute, right? And it's like you look at something, and it's like it's great. It's
First
just
time the lights are going, you're racing, you're like, we're doing it. We're doing
all
it.
right. And now it's just like,
You called me for this?
yeah, right. You just know what you're going into. So it's just, but it's, I don't know. It's just funny when when you look back at these things. And so the same with like a critical care or doing flight medic and the level of training that you do. And then you look back and you go, yeah, it's, whatever.
Yep.
And I always, like to say, don't learn just to get promoted. Learn to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that just displays another level of passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just looking over some of my notes, there's one thing that, to go back to dog training, was a woman from Virginia Task Force 1, Elizabeth Kreitler. She said during training, like, don't be a gnat in the dog's ear. Like, it goes to the commander's intent. It goes to training.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
give an order, and let your people work.
Yeah.
Let them figure it out.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Just
You can't, as a commander. I mean, you can, like, you can be that micromanager that tells everybody how to do something exactly, but you can't be effective because you're not in the scenario. You're not going to remember every piece of it always. You know, there's that whole span of control that you talk about. And if you're trying to, tell, it's been our 5 different companies how to exactly do something versus give them a task and let them complete, it becomes
might not be your way of getting it done. It's their way, and as long as the objective is done safely,
right.
And you might learn, like, you might supplement your way
Exactly.
by, all the time. Like, I'll see something like, oh, I've never seen someone do it that way before, and maybe it's more efficient, or there's something that you can take from their method to supplement yours.
Yeah.
Right.
Or if you're if you're trying your way and it's not working, be like, hey, let me try this way, and it ends up working. Like,
Right.
no method is 100% effective 100% of the time. Like, you need to try different approaches, and that's why I think one of the benefits of the fire service is being a team is you have different viewpoints, different experience levels, different backgrounds, to where, like, hey, this isn't working. Like, let's take a step back. Let's try it this way.
Right.
See if that's effective. Yeah.
And a couple from James Mattis is, when help's needed, give help.
Yeah.
If you see somebody that's obvious and needs help, regardless of what it is, lend them a hand. And if you can't personally, then get them the support that they need.
Find someone. Yeah. There's so much to leadership, and like that's why I think, like, everyone's on, like, their own. If you care about good leadership, like, some people don't, some people just don't care.
Right.
But, like, being a student and realizing that there's so many people that can inform your own leadership philosophy, but that, like you said, like, so many of these principles are truly timeless.
Some people don't care. Some people just don't understand the value of good leadership.
Yeah.
Maybe
everything.
Maybe they haven't had a bad leader or recognized bad leadership to understand how valuable good leadership can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you definitely, I've heard, other people say, I got promoted because, like, I can do less. I'm like, I find myself doing more.
Yeah.
100%.
You should.
Yeah.
It's
should.
The higher you go, like, the more involved in the organization you should be.
Yeah.
Not something I've, is complete. We talked about this in the last, we did, like, a Veterans Day episode, but, like, complete aside, like, struggling with, balancing fire service in the military is, like, you're not, like, just because you're removed from, like, the tactical level operation, like, you should be more involved in ensuring the organization's success.
Yeah.
So the higher you go, the more involved you should be, and it's tough sometimes to remain readily accessible to, like, the tactical level, but you should try. You should try at least.
Yeah.
And what was I gonna say? There was I don't really consider leadership as always being in charge.
Yeah.
But I consider leadership as always being responsible.
Yeah.
And because if
It's a great way. Yeah.
my idea isn't the best way, and we go with somebody else's idea, like, are you really in charge? No, the person with the better idea kind of is.
Yeah.
And but you have the responsibility if it goes sideways.
Yeah.
Right. And you have the responsibility to recognize
That's
that there's
yeah.
a better way.
That's what I think, like, constitutes good leadership, is understanding that, like, you as a leader, like you said, you're the organizer and facilitator, but you're not the one that's completing the mission. Like, you're just hopefully providing the resources, but understanding, like, the person with the most qualified to complete a specific task could be, like, the senior man,
Right.
or it could be this brand new private that's on probation, and be like, hey, you're the most qualified for this task. Like, we'll follow your lead. And I think that shows maturity and strength as a leader, is to recognize, like, who the best person to help ensure the mission completion.
Right.
Right.
I like what our old deputy used to say. If the call goes well, it's because of the crew. If the call goes bad, it's because of the leadership.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just own it.
Yeah.
I mean, Lord knows I'm not perfect, and I've made plenty of mistakes, and still will. But as long as you improve on it and take ownership of them, that's the key of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to highlight, so, like, as we transition into, like, the thanks for, coming on the episode and sharing your story, but I think there's a lot of, you had sent me a lot of these mentors and, like, what they've taught you. And I think this continues that conversation of leadership. Understanding, like, I would like to go through each of these and kind of like describe like each person and what they, kind of like what they meant to you. But so Tom Kenny, and I believe he was a well-known guy in the New England firefighting community.
Yes.
Saying it's okay to love the job.
Yep.
That's one of our favorite things. To say.
Yeah, we were pretty good friends. He actually named his Christmas Eve party the John Talin Christmas Eve party.
All right.
And I'd always go over there and before the divorce and have a good time. And our relationship, when I first got hired in Hyannis, I went to his shift, and I was always told, if you want to get to know the job well, get on his good side. And so I did, and I learned a lot from him.
Is that him there?
Yeah, that's TK there.
Yeah.
With
hell of a stash.
Yes.
Hell of a stash.
Hell yeah, brother.
But yeah, I think he was a known quantity in the New England firefighting community.
That's true. Yeah. He did a lot of teaching for on the national level for technical rescue and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was pretty. He had a lot of knowledge, and he shared it, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's the key. So then you have Rick Knowlton. I'm here to go on calls.
Yeah. So Tom Kenny and Rick Knowlton. Rick was on Hyannis. He passed away in, I believe it was 2018, due to cancer, occupational cancer. Same with Tom. But he, in our kitchen, we have "It's okay to love the job" up on the wall, and then on the other side is Rick Knowlton's quote is "I'm here to go on calls," and that's just remind we're here for citizens, we're here for the public.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no other industry like the fire service. You call 911, you actually get somebody within a few minutes.
Yeah, right.
Like you call the plumber's not coming over
No.
unless he doesn't have a national standard of less than 8 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Even the police department, they stack calls, so it could be, depending on the
Mm-hmm.
level of priority,
Yeah.
Right.
a couple hours I've waited.
Right.
And but with the fire service, you dial 911, you need an ambulance or a fire truck, we're there.
Yeah. We're coming.
Yep.
And that was part of his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should write that up on the walls.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder for
It's a
everybody.
good reminder.
Then Craig Fahrenkoff. Is that how you,
Craig Fahrenkoff, he's retired now, doing well in retirement. He was one of our captains, and he was also my first captain. He was definitely a good guy, well respected, and he would basically said, "Don't be Cyclops." If somebody came back from a call and they got hyper focused on something, he'd bring his hands up like that and indicate that you
Right.
got tunnel vision.
it's
Right.
like standing too close to the elephant.
Yeah.
Right. You're like, you lose if you're too close, you lose perspective of the whole incident.
Right.
What you're trying to do.
And he definitely taught me a lot of things and a lot of common sense things, and he was always a blast to work with.
Yeah.
Like, he literally put himself on the first out ambulance at night to work with myself and Ryan, and we screwed up calls, and we went to the wrong address on one where we had to like go over somebody's fence to get to the right one, and it was just it was a lot of fun working with him. It really was. He always was there to be there for you and joke around and but still get the job done.
Witty banter.
Yeah, he would definitely
awesome.
set the tone. He definitely did.
Yeah. Then you have Brian Lawrence,
Yep, Brian Lawrence.
always keeping you in check.
Yeah, so all of them are on Hyannis, or were.
Yeah.
Brian recently retired. He retired as our training captain, and by far, if I made an error, he would let me know.
Yeah.
And he was he's a Marine, and he was a canine handler in the Marine Corps. So we definitely bonded
kindred
over
spirit.
that. Yeah, and he would tell me in his Marine Corps way.
Yeah. Hey, fuckface.
Luckily, how he said it, I still received it well.
Yeah.
Right.
And there was other times where he was like, wasn't pulling the Marine Corps stuff.
Yeah.
And it all made sense, and he always put me in my spot.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And you got Jeff for always being there.
Yep, Jeff Lamoth, he's our current training captain. He's always been there for me through the thick and thin, and he's another person that keeps me in check and tells me when I did something wrong or something. And he's I don't like when I get a spontaneous text message from him, come see me. Like
that's never
it
good.
goes,
That's never good.
It goes through the roof, and
Yeah.
I come in, and he's like, "Have a seat, close the door."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Ah, crap."
Yeah.
Yeah,
What do I do now?
Yeah.
And then,
William Murray,
yep,
putting you on the path.
yeah, he was my cousin. He pointed me in the right direction, towards law enforcement, and I couldn't get hired because I had no experience, and then just fell into the fire service. And
Yeah.
he was like, "That's awesome, proud of you."
Yeah.
So he got you into public service, anyways.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, and you also had, and that's what I think is so incredibly, like, everyone needs mentors.
Yes.
Like, you can't go it alone.
That's
No.
Because
support.
you need people to show you the way.
Yeah.
So that's something that I think is really important. I think all great leaders, whether you call yourself one or not, and I don't think any great leader would ever call themselves a great
No,
leader.
you can't.
You can't. Yeah.
You can't.
Has a mentor. It has
True.
multiple mentors.
Yep.
In the fire service, out of the fire service, in the
Yep.
military, out of the military. But you also, I thought it was really cool. You had some special thanks and people who helped you formulate your thoughts for this episode, and
Right.
we thank them as well.
Yeah.
So do you want to go through these names and
Yeah, definitely. So, I'd like to thank Wendy Austin, Joe Mendez, Greg Dardia, Ryan Clough. I gave them all the notes, told them what I was up to, and I said, "Hey, let me know if I need to add anything, remove anything.
Yeah.
Is my leadership thoughts like accurate? Do I actually do what I wrote down?"
yeah.
Yeah.
And they all had good things. And Wendy came back and she goes, "Yeah, you need to make this more personable."
Yeah.
So she's like, add stuff to your story, talk about,
Yeah.
this and that, and,
Yeah.
if you're comfortable with it. I'm like, yeah, definitely. And she really opened up, really helped with adding more about my story
Yeah.
good.
than I could have.
It's people that give you the blunt feedback, the stuff you need to hear,
Yeah, and she's another one that keeps me in check. She's got no problem saying, "Hey, you screwed up."
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is
Awesome.
fine.
Good.
Well,
Awesome.
Oh, Wendy sounds pretty great, so
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
Well, before we get to the ever important question of the day, I think, it goes without saying, like, how immensely appreciative we are that you were willing to come on the show, share your story. You were actually the first guest we've had that reached out to us to ask to share, which I think says a lot about you and your willingness to share your story to benefit the community and to benefit others, which I think is very powerful.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say thank you for coming on. and
Yeah.
sharing your
Thank you
story.
very much.
I appreciate you,
We
man.
appreciate that.
So,
And just want to reiterate one thing is I definitely don't advocate not drinking, but
Yeah.
if you do and you notice yourself getting more and more, look for the root cause.
yeah.
But in my life, I know I couldn't do it. Doesn't mean that other people can't.
Yeah.
Right.
So as long as it's all healthy and good.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the leadership stuff, it's you got to remain curious. When you're out in the street, we'll stop at Starbucks and get a coffee and go down Main Street and park the engine and look at some properties that are tucked away and that you don't see. So
Yeah.
you gotta remain curious about your job and be a student.
Yeah. I think you always got to be, like, inquisitive.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
always want to keep, like, that's the spark,
Yeah.
whether you're a leader or not. You should always want to, like, learn and grow and do more and, like, try something new, get good at it, try something, I think that's important, like, for not just to be, like, a good leader, but to lead a fulfilling life.
Right.
Yeah. I
Just
agree.
to just be curious, try new things. So
Side note, it is pouring
It's
outside
pouring.
right
Yeah, it
now.
is.
Holy cow.
other side note, so I really work hard on my grass. And yesterday I had an area that failed along my fence. Ripped it all out yesterday. Put new loam in. Put new seed in. Feeling
all
very
gone now.
accomplished. It's probably all eroded away right now.
Oh, yeah. Didn't look at the weather, Barry?
Well, it said rain, so I was like, oh, perfect. I don't have to water it. And
Right.
it didn't say torrential
Didn't
downpours.
say monsoon.
Yeah, it didn't say monsoon.
Didn't say flood season.
Yeah. So, as you may or may not be familiar, we do the ever important question of the day.
Yes.
We try and make it completely spontaneous. I feel like I know the answer to this question, but my question of the day is, if you could pick one dog breed
Oh.
and why, what would it be?
Oh boy. Well, it's either going to be the Dutch Shepherd or the Belgian Malinois.
There can only be one.
Yeah. Well, I'll go with the Mal.
Yeah.
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 My Dutch Shepherd now, Fury, he is literally a maniac.
Do you find that
Is that
Dutchies
like
are-
a long-haired? No.
No.
What are they?
They're
I-
short-haired
yeah.
like the Mals, but they're more brindle.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you-
My
All
wife's
I
best
get
friend
it.
has
I
2
know.
of them.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Do you find that Dutchies have, like, because when I had first looked at getting like a working dog and talking with the handlers that I worked with, they kind of like put it on like a spectrum of like
Cars.
the Belgians are all the way over here, like an amazing working dog, amazing drive, but maybe not the best like family dog, or it takes the really right. You have to have the right type of personality to make that dog a home dog.
Yeah.
And then they put the Dutchies in the middle, and then they put the East Germans to the left, like still strong. Would you say that the Dutchies have less? I don't want to say like less of a drive. Like, are they more intensive? You think than Belgians or?
My experience, I've had 4 Malinois, and my Dutch will he doesn't sit down.
Yeah.
He literally, there's a track in my basement of his
Yeah.
paw prints.
Just
Wow.
He runs it all day long. And
Yeah.
But yeah, the Dutch Shepherd is I look at his cars like the German Shepherd's a Corvette,
yeah.
and the Dutch and the Mal are like Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
You know, I consider, when I describe them, I say they're German Shepherds, but on speed.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, they're amazing.
Yeah.
Just their athletic ability and the whole family thing. I could see it maybe with some dogs, but I also know plenty of Mal owners that integrate them into their family just fine.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the whole socialization of
Yeah.
it.
No. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Squilliam.
Oh,
If you could-
I don't have an answer for this.
Yeah.
No, my dog was a mutt, and he's forever gonna be my favorite dog ever. So
Mhm.
Yeah. He actually just got a tattoo
I
of
see.
Dante.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
There's a new breed. a brand new breed.
Yeah.
No, so I have a
Corso.
a mix. It's a Cane Corso, which is the Italian Mastiff, or Cane Corso, whatever they say. I don't know what to say. But then, but she's mixed with a Golden Doodle. So she's like gray brindle, long hair. When you let it all grow out, she looks like an Irish Wolfhound. When you shave down her head and just leave her beard, and then I shaved right down her back, she looks like a big terrier. And then when I shave her really skinny, when I just shave everything off, she just looks like a skinny weirdo. Then her face just looks Golden Doodle.
Yeah.
She's beautiful. I would say honestly though, man, I've had the opportunity to live with a couple of the Cane Corsos, and one of the dogs had some separation anxiety. He was difficult. He had to be rehomed. He needed like a big yard to go out and do some things. But the other one that we had was an absolute prince, and both of them were the most easily trained dogs I ever had. Even though the other one had separation anxiety, never had to walk him on a leash. Like I don't have to walk Phoebe on a leash now.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They're just I think they're just like a perfect mix of like house pet,
Yeah.
scary as hell.
Yeah.
Obviously their athleticism, they're bigger dogs, so their
Yeah.
athleticism is probably somewhere like, middle to low range. But I mean, in my experiences before just having labs, all the labs I had were just MFers, man. Like they were just like, they were so headstrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they were good pets, but they were also like, the
So
door's
hyper.
open.
Yeah.
Boom, gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're just so like they're just instinctual driven dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, just because of my experience, I think that's what it comes down to, right? Is your experience. But my friend Dave Gilrain from Mansfield, he has an East German Shepherd, and working line, like the Rin Tin Tin line or whatever,
Yeah.
and all that. And she's a great dog.
Yeah.
Love her. But he says it now. Like his wife loves pit bulls, so they have a pit bull too.
Yeah.
And they've had nothing but great pit bulls.
Yeah.
And but he has that shepherd, and he's like, I absolutely want another shepherd,
Yeah.
same exact kind of dog, on the smaller end, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And same thing.
I think all dogs are like inherently good dogs, and it's up to like the owner and socialization and training and like giving them the right stimulus and environment to have that dog thrive. My favorite breed is the Kaya.
Yeah.
No, but I probably pick. This is my first working line dog, but she's like, I think I hit the lottery in the sense of like Will says, everyone's dog is the best dog.
Yeah.
We did like a trivia night for my wedding, and for like the night before the wedding when everybody was getting there, get pizza and did like a fun little trivia thing. And one of the last questions was, who's the best dog in the world? And anyone that didn't answer their own dog got points taken away.
Yeah. I think I hit the lottery with Kaya in the sense that like I think half of it is like training. We were very intentional with socialization and doing things the right way and the right timeline, but also just like her temperament, like just the two of them together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's not she's got she steals my fucking foam roller, little rascal. Right. You know what I mean? But she's just like awesome. She's my best friend, and like she's so good. My kid is just turned a month old, and Kaya is like so in tune and attentive, and we'll go over and give her little licks, and like I don't have to worry about, you know what I mean? She's just like gentle around the right people to be gentle around, a psychopath around me, you know what I mean? But like, and she just can modulate, and like the best hiking partner, running partner, I couldn't ask for a better. I would like to have a Czech shepherd at one point.
Yeah.
Czech line. I think that'd be cool. Mostly because I have a Czech background, but. Well, that does it for today's episode. And again, just reiterate, thank you so much for coming on the show. It means a tremendous
Thanks for sharing your story.
Appreciate you.
To us and to the community.
Yeah.
And we hope to see you again.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
No, we're honored, humbled and honored.
Yeah.
So I'll turn it over to the usual suspects to take us home.
Yeah. Just remember to. We don't have to have this slide in.
Okay, I put up the outro and disclaimer.
I think I haven't read it since episode 2.
Thank you for your efforts.
Yeah.
Well, that does it for this week's episode, folks. We hope you enjoyed it and got something new out. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, please subscribe. Big thank you to Wilco Media and Nick over there, and we will see you on the next one.
JobTlks out. I added the Liver King.
Yeah. Love it. He takes steroids. There's no way he doesn't.
No, he doesn't, dude.
You don't think so?
No. Did you hear his answer to PED?